If you're a business owner and you're wondering whether or not you should be on TikTok, the answer is yes. And this chewing gum company, Epic Dental, increased their business by 40% last year just by going viral on TikTok. In this entire presentation from the Attention Summit, they're going to reveal exactly how they did it. Enjoy.
Why we thought video would be so relevant for us to educate consumers.
So I'd really been kind of working on Donald for years. Like, we need to be doing something with social because we have access to eyeballs for a way different rate than if you're paying for radio, TV, other things that are out there. And he just wasn't quite convinced, but we had two very interesting things happen that really changed kind of how he was looking at it, and the direction we wanted to go changed completely. So the first one was, we were sitting around the office and we're looking at our sales one day and we're like, what is going on? Product is selling like crazy. We had probably an extra $80,000 of product sell in a week that we weren't expecting. And so we're like, wow, we're doing something right. I wonder what that is. And so we started looking around, trying to figure out where were these sales coming from? Was someone talking about us? What happened? And I had an employee the next week that just mentioned, hey, my husband is a big fan of the Joe Rogan show. He had a doctor on his show that just briefly mentioned like a 30-second clip about how when she was pregnant, she had cavities, she didn't know what to do about it, and she read a study that talked about the fact that pregnant women that chew xylitol gum, their kids have a huge reduction in the risk of cavities, even if those kids never, ever touch xylitol. It was an incredible study. And so since her whole background is in, I think, biochemistry, she's like, okay, this is great. This is what I need to do. And she talked for 30 seconds about the results that her teeth had from chewing xylitol gum. And she didn't even mention our brand. She just talked about the category. And so that is where those sales came from. And we're like, okay, this is really interesting. How can we replicate this?
How can we get on Joe Rogan?
Right? I mean, how are you going to do that? But then I would say about maybe like 8 or 9 months later, we had another interesting thing happen. We started getting a whole bunch of sales, and this was on a day that we were moving from our old office building to our new building that we'd custom built out for what we were trying to do for our business. And so it's moving day, things are super chaotic, and then all of a sudden we're getting like the phone ringing off the hook, orders are coming in, and we're like, okay, this is great. I mean, terrible timing, but this is awesome. But we had no idea where these sales were coming from. None of it made sense. We checked everything that we did, that we had been investing in. There was no clear signs. So what I did was I asked the receptionist at our office to say, hey, when people are calling in, ask them how they heard about us. What was different? And person after person said they saw a TikTok video about our product. And at that point, I mean, we're not young and cool anymore. At that point, we thought TikTok was just for teenagers, making videos, dancing around. That was all we knew. So that was the night I made my TikTok account to say, what the hell is TikTok? And we spent the night scrolling, and I mean, day one, you see a lot of random stuff on day one before the algorithm learns what you like. So that was interesting. And it took a couple hours of digging to find the video. But it went over 1 million views, and it was a guy stitching a video. We were going to show it, but there's some audio issues with the TV. A guy had made a very, very simple video where he just picked up his phone, no fancy editing, and he stitched a video where a lady said, tell me something that sounds illegal to know. Like, you've seen that clip. And so he stitched that, and he said, hey, I feel like, this is crazy, but this gum prevents cavities. And he talked about his story of reading a book about xylitol, was blown away by the research behind it, and he started chewing our gum. And at the end of the video, he held up a pack of our gum and said, hey, this is what I chew. It's called Epic. You can get it on Amazon. It's really awesome. And this is, a goobery looking guy, not fancy editing, no fancy lighting. There was nothing professional about this video. And it gets over 1 million views, and we sold, again, another extra $80,000 worth of product that week. So by this point, we're like, okay, there is something here that is really, really cool, and we need to figure out how do we replicate this and make that happen again. So the tricky part for us was, okay, how do we find the right partners to do this? Because we're entrepreneurs, we're business owners. We don't know anything about, editing videos. Could we learn how to do that and build the skill over time? Yeah, probably, but we just don't have time to do that. So for us, we need someone to hand that load off to so that we can focus on what we do best. And so that's what we started searching for. We started looking, okay, is there someone in our team that we could teach how to do some stuff? And we tried handing some things off, asking, one of the people on our team to make some things for Instagram. Obviously, none of it was great. We put a few things out there. but nothing was really happening. And we said, okay, can we hire someone to do video for us? Should they be, full-time on our team? Should they be remote? There's all these different options. So we started putting feelers out there and interviewing people. We posted a couple of jobs, trying to figure out who could we partner with that could give us these results without us having to stop everything we're doing day to day and devote all of our time to this. We interviewed dozens and dozens of people and struggled to find anyone that really understood what we were trying to do. We could find person after person that could make huge claims about what they could do for us. They would say, oh, I know all about social media. I've been posting for this long. I know all about editing video. I'm an expert in this. But then we said, okay, well, show your work, because as a client trying to hire someone to do video, that's what I cared about. Show me your work and prove to me that you're not just full of words, that you actually know your stuff. So we'd take a look at, okay, who are some of the clients that you worked with? Some people were super tight-lipped about that and didn't want to tell us who they worked with. And for us, we're like, okay, done deal. We're not gonna work with you if we can't see what you've done. Some people showed us their work, and we would look at video after video for 5 of their clients. Everything looked exactly the same. There was no personality. There was nothing individual. You could not distinguish one brand from another. And for us, that was the deal breaker, and we'll talk about why that is. We started looking at their personal accounts to say, hey, okay, you say you know how to get views on social media. What is your account? And when they've got, 800 followers and their videos are getting no views at all, that was hard for us to believe. And so it's like, okay, if you can't get views for yourself, and if you can't get followers for yourself, how can you help our brand do that? And we needed someone we could really lean on and trust to be able to do that for us. And so that's kind of where Ryan came in. So we had been searching for literally a full year to try and find the right person. And then Donald had a spark of inspiration.
Yeah, so I saw this video with Ryan, and it had him up in the little thing, and I was like, that's the guy. He's made all those big videos. I need to hire that guy. So I looked for him on LinkedIn. There was no Ryan McGinn that I could find on LinkedIn. So I DM'd him on Instagram, and he didn't respond. And I was like, I don't know how to track down this guy. And all of a sudden he posts, I'm going to have this video summit. I was like, hell yeah, I'm going to that video summit. And it was like the day of my daughter's birthday that I had to leave.
And he's like, I'll take a red eye. I'll be back in the morning. And I'm like, you're insane. What are you thinking?
Yeah, and my wife's, no, we got to invest in this. If you think this is the guy, go see, put in the time and understand what's there. So we did, and I grabbed Ryan. I was like, hey, I sell gum. He's like, oh, that'd be really cool, but I'm super busy right now. And I was like, no, I need to hire you, right? Like, I got to get this done. So I worked around his team, met Luis, talked to other people. I put all my little claws in, and Ryan finally gave me a call, or one of his team members gave me a call a couple months later and says, hey, we're good to go. And I was like, hallelujah, we're going to do this. And within a couple of weeks, Ryan flew out, and he did exactly what you saw up here. He sits down with us and he directs a session where he asks a lot of questions, and he asked us tons and tons of questions, and then he disappeared. And I was like, okay, what's going to happen? When are we going to get a video up? I've given him my passwords. He's going to post that stuff for us. Something's going to happen. So he posted our first video on February 28th of 2023. This was on an account that had a few hundred followers at the time. The TikTok account had no followers when he posted. And
we were starting at 0.
Yeah, we were starting. This is literally from 0. My wife and I followed the account, so maybe I had 2 followers. And then we converted my wife's page into a personal page for our brand. He posted a video there. On March 5th, we had a video go viral. So this is our 6th video. Our 6th video ever, and it hits over 1 million views right away. What do I see with the sales? $120,000 in sales that month versus the same month prior, right? So that's additional sales up and above what the year prior had been. I was like, oh damn, video works. We are all in on video. Let's go make the video that we need to, because it can have such a huge impact when you can get out and share a message. And so that's what we did. We focused on getting video after video after video out to make a difference. And that, I can't tell you how impactful that was to me as somebody who for years had been desperate to figure out how to educate on a tiny budget, right? Like my competitors in this space, you think of Wrigley's, they built a whole stadium in Chicago, right? It's got their name on it. Like that wasn't, Wrigley Field didn't just sell the naming rights, like that's how much money these people have, is that they could build this stuff. Colgate-Palmolive, you think I really want to go up against them? Or Procter & Gamble? They spend more money on their Arbor Day parties than I have for an entire marketing budget, right? Like, you guys, you get the idea. So video was our great equalizer, and that is what I wanted us to accomplish. That was the big vision for us, was how do we use video to equalize so we can get a message out to the marketplace?
Yep. So I think that's really what we want to talk to you guys about today, is our story, and also what would we tell ourselves a year ago today? Because when you're starting the process, you've never ventured into this, it can be incredibly intimidating. And I know we had a lot of uncertainties. We didn't know, are we going to piss away a bunch of money? Is this actually going to work? Is it going to do anything at all? And so, if you're an editor working with clients, they are going to be feeling those things. If you're here and you're trying to be a content creator yourself, you felt those things. And so we really want to talk about, some of the things that we've learned, what we would tell ourselves at the starting point a year ago.
Yeah, and I think one of the first things I would have told myself is just start. Like, the idea that it didn't take loads of videos to go viral, I had to have a great team behind that, right? I had made a video or two before. Like, I'm sure I can sit in my car and film something and say something useful. I know how to write a hook, but oh my gosh, no, I didn't know how to write a hook.
How many of those did you actually post?
Right, and I wouldn't post them because just like the guy today who called me fat, when I looked in the mirror, that's what I felt. I was like, who am I to get up and give this? Am I a dentist? No, I'm not a dentist. And yet I've spent 20 years helping people prevent cavities. I have learned the science. I understand what's there, and I just start. And I think so often I see business owners with that hesitation where all they need to do is jump in. Because when you start, you can really make a difference. So that was the first thing. The second thing that I realized was I needed to not be a bottleneck, right? One of the things that would happen when I'd ask my team, because we had people, by the way, we do several $1 million a year in business. I don't have a marketing team. I don't have a sales team.
You're looking at it.
Yeah, this is the whole marketing team, right? And so I had people that I would ask. Maybe they said they were great at marketing and we'd hire them and I'd bring them in. I was like, okay, help me get this social media started. But they'd bring me posts, they'd bring me content. I'd be like, it's off brand, it's not right, it's not the thing we need. And so I'd push it away. I'd write a piece and I'd be like, it's not good enough. We don't have the right thing, it's not good enough. And so what I had to learn was I could no longer be the bottleneck. Part of Ryan's contract was we post a video and you do not take down a video. We're going to edit for you and it's just gonna be what it's gonna be. That's a lot of discomfort for me. That's a lot of trust to put in somebody. But that is the only way that it worked for me to be successful, to overcome my own fears, uncertainties, and doubts. Because those were going to be guiding forces for me. So stepping out and not being the bottleneck was key. And I had to sit in the discomfort of looking at videos where I'm like, that's not my perfect self out there. That's probably my real self. And that discomfort is real because I want to see myself as that perfect version, right? Who's never misspoken, who's never said something oddly or done it the wrong way. And I needed to overcome that to really have the impact that I wanted to have. And so I'm so grateful that we dove in and did it because overcoming those things has had a tremendous impact on our bottom line.
And I think, so often people want things to be, perfectly optimized, perfectly set up, and consistency is going to take you so much farther than being perfect. Start putting stuff out there and then start optimizing and tweaking it and making it better, and year after year it's going to get better. So there's a lot of things that we try not to do, like Donald said. We try not to get in the way of Ryan's editing team. We try not to worry too much about it being perfect. We try to sit in a lot of discomfort to be able to deal with that. But there are a few things that we do on our end to kind of help with that process. So one of the things that's really important to us is to have clear rules for the editing team. I think it's really hard if they're working at a moving target. They don't understand what we care about and what we don't care about. And so we try to keep that very, very limited. So one example that I have for that is for us, when we look at our brand and who we are as people, it was a big deal to me that we never had a video go out that had a price tag on an item somewhere in the video. I have a pretty phenomenal handbag collection. Ryan's seen it. But that's something that we typically like to keep private, and we're not super showy, flashy kind of people. That does not fit our personality or our brand. And so we had kind of a debate back and forth with Ryan where he's like, hey, people love to see price tags. They love to see what it costs and have that be on the video. You're going to get more views if you do that. And so we had to make that call and say, okay, yes, we might get more views on that video, but long term it's going to have a negative impact on the brand. And so we have a couple of small rules like that where we say, okay, that is one thing the editing team can't do. Outside of that, they can do whatever they want. If my hair looks crappy, I deal with it. If we said something that sounded funny, we deal with it. If the subtitles don't perfectly match what we said, we deal with it. Because it doesn't matter. Putting something out there day after day matters so much more. And really, worst case scenario, you get people in the comments commenting on those things, and that just helps your engagement. So it just doesn't matter. So as long as they don't violate those core rules that go against who we are as people and against our brand, we're good, and we have to deal with kind of the rest of it. Another thing that we do and that we realized along the way was to kind of think about what is it we are saying on the raw footage. Because the first time we ever filmed with Ryan, we were like, okay, we don't know what this is. We're just going to kind of roll with it. Luis talked to you guys yesterday about all of the research they do and topic generation that they bring into it. So we tried to be super flexible the first time and say, okay, we'll try whatever and see what happens. But there was one video in particular where they told me to talk about like, hey, what is your opinion on iPhone versus Android? I don't have an opinion. I don't give a shit about tech. None of that matters to me. Like, I don't care. But they were like, a lot of people really like this. This might get a lot of views. People have interest in this topic. So I said, okay, I'll be flexible. I'll try it anyway. So I made a video, and then when it came out, you could see the lack of passion in what I was saying. You could see that I did not give a shit. And so for me, that was a really interesting moment to say, okay, yes, someone else doing this video could have gone viral. But for me, that's not the right fit. And so we kind of made a rule right then and there that anytime something came up as a topic that doesn't fit our brand, that doesn't fit who we are, that doesn't fit the things that we are passionate about, we're going to say no. And Ryan's been so great to roll with that. We'll push back and say, no, this really doesn't fit. And he knows that that's how we work, and he just rolls right on to the next topic. And so I feel like that conversation back and forth is key to make sure that everything you're saying is something that you completely believe, that it is always on brand. And so that's something that we can control because we are the people that are in the video footage. We are the ones speaking. And so the way we behave on camera and the words that we speak, that is the only thing we can control. After that, Ryan and his team have got it, and they're going to do whatever they're going to do with it. And that's really how that works. And so for us, that has become a rule to say we only ever say things that we believe 100%. And so if we record a video, even if it's a little ballsy, we're putting something out there that might be controversial, that is the question we ask ourselves internally, is how much do I believe this? If I had 20 people walk up to me right now and say, you're online, you have to be so confident in what you've said that 20 people can tell you the most horrible things and you will still say, I know I'm right about this. I stand by what I said, and this is a hill I'm willing to die on. I feel like that is key. And we've had a couple interesting moments about that we'll go over in a minute.
Yeah, we had one video with thousands of comments that basically wished ill will on all of us and our family,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's hard when you're off brand. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and so I think that's something that you can really control is what you're talking about. And I think when you talk about things that are so interesting to you, you would talk about it for free to anyone that would listen. That's when you know you're talking about something compelling, because there's going to be some other nerd out there that likes the same stuff that you do. And so never ever speak for the audience. Speak about what you care about, because you're going to find people that like that. And if you're there for, validation, approval, likes, you're going to get eaten alive. It's not going to work for you. And so that's a big deal. And so we had one, 2 videos that really did this, but one in particular right before Thanksgiving, where we filmed a video and we talked about the fact that, hey, we don't do holidays with family. That is something we decided around 5 years ago. We were so sick of the drama. We were sick of the toxic family members. We were sick of living our holidays for everybody else. Our kids are tired. They're stressed. No one has a good day. And so that was a rule we made as a family, is we do all of our holidays, just the 5 of us at home with nobody else, and we're in our pajamas, and it's incredible, and we absolutely love it. And so we made a video about that. There were a lot of people that did not like that. There were tons of Karens out there that were so pissed because it triggered the fact that they had a daughter-in-law not coming to their house. And it had nothing to do with us, but they exploded in the comments. And it was really, really fascinating to see. Let me find the numbers on that really fast. Where do I have those? So that video got over 800,000 views. It had 35,000 likes, almost 5,000 comments, most of which were very negative and very personal towards us. But we had 3,000 people that saved it as a favorite thing, and over 5,000 people that shared it, and tons of new followers, and people in the DMs being like, we feel the exact same way. I feel so understood by your video. And so I think that's something we're gonna go over today too, is you're gonna get the good with the bad always, and that's kind of how it works, so.
Yeah, it was interesting. When we started our video experiment, we had agreed internally, we hadn't told Ryan this, that we were going to do videos with him for a year. We were going to give him a full year to find out what could happen. And if that meant that I pissed away $100,000 just to have Ryan do stuff, that was the price we were willing to pay to see if this video experiment could work. Because there's a big difference between direct response and branding. I think a lot of times we think we can make videos to sell things and that's going to be the perfect solution, right? It can sell for me, now I don't have to get out there and sell, and I want the quick hit. You know, imagine a sale. You guys know the dopamine hits when you get those likes and you get those comments and you get those follows. Imagine the dopamine hits when you pull up your Amazon, you're like, oh my gosh, I sold $30,000 more today than I did yesterday. That's a big dopamine hit, right? You're feeling good, so you're like, we need to sell more of these. Let's get some more direct response videos out there. But as you likely know, direct response has a diminishing return again and again and again. You don't want to have an infomercial everywhere. So we know we have to invest in sharing a message that's more than just, hey, here's our product and we think you should buy it. Right? And we have to put out videos that give value to our audience that are above and beyond that. And that's how you build, that's one of the things you do to build a brand. You add value to those that are around you. And you don't just try and capture it. It's so easy to lean into the capture. I want to get more, I want to get more, I want to get more. And sometimes I think we probably capture too much, right? Like we talk a lot about our products because it's a really cool solution to a very common problem. And I don't regret talking about it because I help tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands, probably customers every year with their smiles and to make a big difference for them. So I'm glad we have a chance to talk about it, but really you got to take that long-term view. That's what branding is. Branding is knowing that today doesn't matter. What matters is the long term. I loved in Arab's conversation yesterday. It's like, hey, I had all these people, let me get their info. I want to get a dupe, I want to get a dupe. And then they steal their deposit instead of they'll sell dupes to these people again and again and again, right? That's the difference between direct response, I want to get it now, and long term, I want to think about it from a branding perspective.
Well, and I think being so crystal clear on what your brand is, who you are as a person, what you stand for, what you don't stand for, what you stand against is really, really key. And there's this example that I absolutely love. So if you guys remember like the old Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner cartoons, did you guys ever see reruns of those as a kid? So Chuck Jones came up with a list of rules that governed everything that happened in those cartoons, and I'm going to share those with you. So this is an example of what you can do with your brand or that your clients can do with their brand to create a list of rules about what do you stand for, what do you stand against, because until you can define clearly on paper what your brand is, you don't know what your brand is. Just like if you can't define on paper who you are as a person, you don't know yourself very well. And that is absolutely critical going into the strategy behind content creation to know what it is you're doing, because otherwise you're going to be making decisions based on feedback you're getting from random people on the internet. And that's not a very good way to do that. So here are the rules that Chuck Jones came up with for Wile E. Coyote. Number one, the Roadrunner cannot harm the coyote except by going beep beep. No outside force can ever harm the coyote, only his own ineptitude or the failure of the Acme products. The coyote could stop anytime if he were not a fanatic. Repeat, a fanatic is one who redoubles his effort when he has forgotten his aim. Number four, no dialogue ever except beep beep. Number five, the Roadrunner must stay on the road at all times, otherwise logically he could not be called the Roadrunner. Number 6, all action must be confined to the natural environment of the two characters, the Southwest American desert. So you can kind of start to get a feel from these rules. If you've ever seen those cartoons, you're like, yes, that matches what I saw. Every single episode was consistent with that. And I think you can look at a lot of brands out there and it feels like they have split personalities. You're getting different things all the time. And that sends such a confusing message to the customer. So the more you can be incredibly consistent with who you are, and you're that person on and off camera, it shows up in everything you do, that's going to go so much farther. And so we've got the same personality in all of our written copy that goes out to every single customer as we do when we're just talking on camera, no matter what topic we're talking about. All of that is consistent so people can get to know us as humans. They understand what our brand is all about.
Yeah, and it's interesting how useful that can be. One of the things that I was really surprised by when we decided to focus on branding rather than direct response is the longevity of a video. So the way I saw social media before we did this with Ryan was you post a video and it has a really short half-life. In a couple days, everybody that's going to see it has seen it. It's not true at all. And that was super fascinating to me when we started posting videos. That video that got 1 million views on March 5th, right away, has grown up to about 3.5 million views, right? And it shows up. If I were to pull up my TikTok feed right now and take a look at notifications, I would have several hundred notifications from tens of videos, 20 videos, 30 videos. They're going to be people that are interacting with videos because the algorithm goes and finds them. There was an interesting video. We bought a company last year that had a related product. So we sell the gum and the mint that have xylitol. There was, it was I guess 2 years ago we bought a pediatrician who developed a tooth wipe that had xylitol. And he was getting ready to retire, wanted to sell his company, so we bought it from him. And we made a video where we referenced this particular product. And one of the things we talk about, how this product is useful for autistic children who struggle with the texture of a toothpaste and the experience of toothbrushing. It's something that he'd seen as a really winner market. And we made a video about it, and it didn't get a bunch of views, right?
It seemed like a nothing video for months. That was in June.
Yeah, so in June. We're now, 7 months later, and what is it, 250,000 views, I think, on that video. So it slowly worked its way into the population that cared about it. And people start to ask questions and talk about it. So when you create these videos, you need to understand you're creating brand assets that last for a really long time. These are not just one and done videos. And that was a big deal for me to understand from a social media perspective, because now it makes sense to invest in that again and again, because maybe that video doesn't hit, maybe you want to do a variation, but over time and with enough videos, you're going to find enough that are going to hit your target audience and really help to get you the exposure that you want to have.
And one of the things that's so interesting is people often wonder, like, how do I hit my ideal customer with these videos? They're going out to a broad set of people. I can't control where it's going to go. How do I hit my ideal customer? And so one, the algorithm is incredible at finding who is looking for your video. But the other thing that is so useful is to be so bold and direct about where you stand and what you stand against in your branding. And if your brand and your marketing is pleasing pretty much everyone, no one objects, you have no haters in the comments, it is way too bland to be successful. You have to be prepared to get a little bit spicy and put stuff out there that feels like it's going to be controversial. And I think so many of us get trained to be people pleasers, to just go along to get along, but you have to realize that it is the opposite on social media. You have to make a real claim and stand for something and stand against something to be able to get anything positive at all. And so that is how you're going to attract your ideal customer, is you have this bold marketing combined with you being consistently authentic to your brand again and again over months and years, and that is going to attract your ideal customer. It's also going to attract a lot of hate as well. So if you think of like Newton's third law of motion, where it talks about, for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. For every force out there, if you've taken a physics class, you have to balance the forces so they're equal and opposite. That is a principle of life that I really believe in, because that is going to happen out there. If you are saying something bold and interesting and compelling, you have people out there that absolutely hate it and that tell you you should shut your mouth and stop talking. And I can't tell you how many people have asked Donald in the comments, why do you let your wife be on video? Because there's people that are not gonna like you. You are not a $100 bill and not everybody's gonna like you. And so coming to terms with that and realizing that, hey, if you're getting haters, you're doing something right. And I think we get so trained to believe that, hey, if you're getting hate, if people are unhappy with you, that means you've done something wrong. Again, you go back to what are the guidelines around your brand? What do you believe as a person, and to have those be grounded in principles, so when hate comes at you, you ask yourself, did I do something wrong, or am I aligned with my principles and they see life differently? And it makes it so much easier to kind of let that go. And so no, if you're not getting hate, you're just getting kind of some bland general likes, you need to be bolder in what you're saying.
For sure. One of the things that really came out of this was just how much. So guys, I don't have an optimized funnel. I don't put a lead magnet on my profile where you can come and say, here's your cavity-free guide, or get a coupon to buy some gum. I don't have a perfect follow-up series where I'm gonna convert you and sell you over time. I just try and put value out there. Yeah, should I have all these things? Probably. There's probably some real value to optimizing our funnel. And yet I made a couple, what would we say? I think right now in the last 10 months, we probably earned an extra $1.4 million in revenue just by being ourselves and putting our message out there.
Nothing else has changed.
Yeah, nothing else has changed. And that's something we feel, thank you. That's something that we feel great about, right? Because our message just needed a platform to go to. And I think a lot of you have messages like that. Messages where if you can just give it life and get it out there, there are people who will identify with you. And you will find success in finding those communities and providing value to those communities. Because that's what we've really focused on. Who can I provide value to? And let me get it out there and provide it to them. And for me, that was a big concern. Like, how can I get started with this? How do I get a perfect funnel going? How do I get it set up the exact right way? And it took something like Ryan just being like, we're going to come film and we're going to post the videos and you'll never see them until everybody else sees them, for that to change for me. And when it changed, it made a big, big difference. Action is way bigger than inaction.
But I think the metrics you use to measure success are really, really important, because if you have the wrong metrics, you're using bad data to make your decisions. And so if you're just looking at how many views are we getting, that might be good to look at. Other times it might not be good to look at. And so that's something Donald's going to talk about, is kind of how those are often related, but they're not always related. We don't have as many views right now as we did a couple months ago, but we are selling more now than we did before. And so I think that's absolutely fascinating. And so, you know, especially when you're looking at posts where you're getting a lot of hate, a lot of negativity, you have to look at how all of those metrics work together. So on one of those, we had a video recently where we talked kind of about how a lot of people have a scarcity mindset that limits their ability to grow as a person, to grow their income, to do a lot of other things. And we talked about how that's one thing that's a pet peeve of ours, when we see parents crushing their kids' dreams and passing on that scarcity mindset, and that we feel like that's a gift you can give to your children to help them believe that things are possible even if they're not possible today. And we absolutely stood by everything we said. But people got so incredibly violent in the comments. That is the one video that we have ever turned off the comments in, because so many people were getting all worked up. We had people stitching the videos and making videos that were directed at us personally with all kinds of expletives, and people just losing their mind because they're so emotional about this topic. And so with that, if we had just looked at that reaction that was the loudest, we would have gotten bad data. But what happened quietly at the same time was we were getting followers like crazy. There were people that quietly agreed with us. They were like-minded people that thought about life the same way that we did. We had DMs quietly coming in of people saying, thanks so much for posting that. That was so valuable to me. We had a lot of people liking the video. And so if you compare the number of angry comments to the number of people that actually liked the video, there was no contest. But to everyone in the comments, they're like, this was an epic fail. You should be taking this down. Why is this up there? And so that was one of those moments where we said, hey, we are not taking this down no matter how angry people are, because we see that some people are getting value and we believe what we said.
Yeah, and we think it's really critical to provide that value and to not be overly driven by the wrong metrics. And any metric can be the wrong metric if you focus on it too much, right? Like if you're running TikTok ads, this is one thing that I learned really quickly. As soon as our TikTok, we don't run ads on TikTok rather. If you're posting organic content on TikTok and you get it to go viral. So that month that we got an extra $120,000, March of last year, when we first saw that big but I was like, why did the Amazon ad spend go up so much? And it's because I talked about the category. I didn't name my product. And a lot of people came and searched the category, and I had to pay Amazon to get those people to land on my page. And so sometimes if you look at that, you're like, oh man, this is really inefficient, or this is great, Amazon's getting way better conversion, and you're not accounting for the views. A lot of times when you're looking at metrics, you can't take in the whole picture when you look at a single metric. And so that's one of the things that I really like to think about when I'm thinking about branding versus direct response. If you're real about growing your brand, you're going to invest in building the right assets and let those This was, yeah,
Brief
sorry, thanks.
minute.
Yeah, I forgot one thing I was supposed to talk about. So in November, I swapped, I was like, we need to get up TikTok Shop. Everybody's like, TikTok Shop, it's great. It's going to do wonderful things for you. So I changed our personal account for Epic.Dental to a business account. Guess what happened? Yeah, you all know it, right? Views tanked. They tanked hardcore. So what did I do? I still wanted to have a TikTok shop, so I just opened up epicdental.com as a TikTok account, and that is a business account. I don't post any videos there. I don't do anything, but it does serve as the shop. And then we converted back to a personal account. It took maybe 2 weeks after converting to a personal account. Again, they're right back up. So, you know, there are things you
So I think next we want to segue into kind of like the emotional aspect of that, because whether you're trying to talk a client into doing video and getting them to sign, or if you're trying to do it yourself, you're going to notice people have a lot of hesitation. Some might sound reasonable, some might not sound all that reasonable. And so we like to call those FUDs, fears, uncertainties, and doubts. That's kind of the word that we use for that. And so I think it's really interesting to look at the categories that those can come into. Because what happens is if your clients are not resolving the FUDs that they have, you're never going to be able to get them to sign, or you're never going to be able to get them to give you permission to start posting those videos, because they are going to be so overwhelmed with their own stresses and anxieties that they believe are rational, but they might not actually be so. And so I think FUDs really fall into kind of three main categories. The first one is financial. Whether it's you trying to post content yourself for your own business, or you have a client that's doing that, they're going to be wondering, is this investment going to pay off? Is it worth it to actually hire someone to edit my videos? Because they look at it and they're like, this is a lot of money. They're weighing all the other things that they could do with those same dollars. And it's nerve-wracking because there is no guarantee. Because for every person that makes it on TikTok, there's probably 10 or 100 others where it did nothing for their business. And they don't understand why one failed and why the other one succeeded. And so they're going to have all of those financial hangups. But I think those that are actually a pretty small component of it. Usually most of them are in the mental or emotional categories. And if you resolve the mental and emotional for sure are the question of, I don't look perfect yet. I need to hit the gym first. I look too chubby. My hair needs to be done. I don't like how my teeth look. Any of those things where you're tearing yourself apart, saying, I need to look perfect before I start. A lot of people are going to have the hangups of, what if no one likes my videos? That was us in a lot of our conversations. We're like, what if no one cares? Because you don't know what the response is going to be until you try it. Another question is, am I really qualified for this? If you're not an expert, if you don't have letters behind your name, am I qualified for this? Is anyone going to care what I say? Which is so funny, because if you look at the opposite of that as someone on TikTok looking at the videos, do you care if they have letters behind their name? Do you care if their hair looks disgusting? It doesn't matter. You're there to be entertained. You're there to learn something. You're there to laugh. it doesn't matter to you what they look like because no one is expecting it to look perfect and polished. But when you're on the other end of the camera, that is what you're thinking is, hey, this isn't perfect and that's not perfect. And it's really not about any of that. That's a stalling technique to say, hey, once these are fixed, then I'll be brave enough to face this thing that feels uncomfortable. Because it's not actually about the hair, it's not actually about the money. Those are excuses because it is hard to just get started. I think some of the mental stresses that people lean on are, I'm going to have less privacy if I do this. That was a big thing for us. We're incredibly private people. We have zero interest in fame and being known. That's not something we want. And so to get over that mental hurdle is a big deal. A lot of people are saying, what about the time I'm going to have to invest in this? What about the stress? So you see there's all these different versions of FUDs that people are experiencing. And while those are unresolved, it's going to be very difficult to get a client to sign on or for you to actually start posting videos. And so we want to talk a little bit about how do you overcome those to actually make it so that you can get started. Donald, do you want to talk about some of your personal FUDs going in?
Well, you nailed it. Financial, right? Is this going to be worth it? For me, I just had to take a gamble. That's the honest truth. I had to convince myself that every other way I'd tried it had not worked. For 20 years, the most I'd ever been able to get the business to do was $1 million, or $5 million, a year. And $5 million is great. I should feel great about that, but I have a friend who built a software business and now owns a basketball team, right? Same time I started my gum company. So you look at that and you're like, I'm not quite the same success. And so you start to doubt yourself and have these fears, right? I had a lot of fear around how I appeared. I had fears that I wasn't a dentist and that people wouldn't listen to me because of it. And it happens frequently in videos. Are you a dentist? Why should I listen to you? Right? And
when
it's
we're
just
thinking, hey, if Dennis had this solved, we wouldn't have a business.
Right, no, it's true, right? If cavities weren't a problem, then we wouldn't have a business. And we're grateful. We have so many wonderful dental partners that do help us and that do talk about these things. But it really took our stepping out and say, we're willing to share our message, and we love this message so much, it's more important than how we feel. And fundamentally, that's what it came down to. I wanted to grow the business and help more people than I could help if I just stayed quiet.
And I think you could tell people those things logically, but they don't realize they're responding from an emotional place. And so I feel like here's a couple of solutions to get over the fears, uncertainties, and doubts that are holding you back. And so I think the first one is to acknowledge those and face whatever is there. Find someone to have those conversations with and lay out all the crap that you don't want to admit. Because your clients are going to tell you, oh, I'm not nervous about it, I'm not worried about it, but they've got real stuff that is actually holding them up from getting back to you. So if they have someone they can talk to about it, like we do that with each other, we lay all of it out there and say, hey, here are the things that I'm really worried about. Worst case scenario, if this goes bad, this is what I'm afraid of. And so being able to get those out and actually face those and find a strategy around it is so helpful, because pretending like it's going to go away and burying that doesn't change anything for you at all. The next one is you have to get emotionally and mentally okay with a very, very imperfect version of yourself going out there. You can't wait until things look perfect. You have to just start while you're uncomfortable, because if you wait for the day that you're comfortable, it will never, ever happen. The next one is to get so crystal clear on your brand, on who you are as a person. When you've got that guiding your decisions. The next one is to create rules and boundaries that can protect areas of risk. And that can come with how you manage things online, in the comments, with what you post and what you don't post. And so we've got a set of rules that guides how we behave in the comments. Because what happens is when you get those people angry in the comments and you try and debate them and convince them, how many of those people are actually going to be converted to being your biggest fans? Probably none of them. And so you have to understand who is for you and who is never ever going to be for you, and to be okay with that, and to learn how to spot the signs that someone is never going to be for you. So some of our rules are, hey, if someone wants to say something that's an attack on our kids, they get blocked. That's a no-go. If someone's going to threaten something incredibly violent, we're going to block them. Yes, does their comment help our engagement a little bit? Yes, but what it does is it distracts people in the comments, and we are never ever going to convince them to like us. But hey, if someone wants to disagree or say something negative in the comments and not go over that line, they are totally welcome to stay and do whatever they want. And so when you find those little things that helps you put a boundary to deal with some of that discomfort, then you're making that decision with a logical, rational mind rather than responding with emotion in the moment. You don't want to respond when you're triggered. You want to have rules guiding how do you behave in the comments. One of the things we like to do is to always lean in with kindness. And so if we have someone being a total jackass in the comments, we're not going to meet them where they're at. We're not going to throw an emotional tantrum with them. We're going to behave the way that we are proud to behave in the comments no matter what. Because what's fascinating is you have other people quietly reading the comments, observing who you are as a person. And they learn a whole lot about who you are when they see how you behave in the comments, what your answers are, and that's going to tell them a lot. So if you're responding in a way that's not consistent with your brand and what they expected from you, you've got a big problem.
Yeah.
Any other tips you would add on there?
No, I think we're just grateful for the opportunity we've had to get our message out on social media and for all the assistance that Ryan and his team have given us. It's been a tremendous blessing, obviously, for us to see the business grow so quickly and to continue to grow. We had our best month ever on Amazon last month. That's not our only distribution channel, but it's the easiest one for me to look at every day. And I love seeing what has happened because of it.
Yeah. So I think we wanted to leave a little bit of time for any questions that you guys have. What do you guys want to know that maybe we could help with? Yeah.
So would y'all say like y'all's thing now is to be able to reach out to influencers to push the Goma more?
So that is something that we are looking at, but I don't feel like it's our primary strategy at all. I feel like just our videos being out there on TikTok and Instagram and continuing to get views months after they've posted, that is doing so much to sell the product that's going to be the main thing we focus on.
Yeah, we're going to continue to produce our own content, although we do anticipate engaging some of those. Over here.
Yeah, so I have a lot of clients who are also like in the health and medical and wellness space, and one of my main issues with them is they take themselves very seriously. So I hear you guys talk about a lot, building your brand and following Ryan's lead. When do you draw the line between I think maybe this is silly or it's not what I want to do, but I'll give it a shot, versus I'm just not doing it?
I mean, I have two thoughts on that. One, if you've got a client that's incredibly dry and that is their personality and that's their brand is to be very, very serious about health, you're not going to get them to be somebody that they're not. And so you have to think about, is this the right client for you? Does that match what you want to work with? Because there might be someone that's a better fit. Because you have to lean into who people authentically are. And there's ways that you can spin that and make that work, but they're gonna have a different target audience because guess what? There's a whole lot of dry people that wanna see very technical stuff on TikTok. So there's a space for that, but you're not gonna get them to show up as excited and passionate and fun.
Yeah.
So.
I have one client in particular. She's very animated. She's great on camera, but she's just her main fear, and we're getting over it. But her main fear is like, I want to talk a lot about my business. So what mindset did you guys have to change to be more open to go broader?
Yeah, so for me, all I wanted to do was let people get to know me. I'm going to give you an example. My brother-in-law is in the audience here. I had him come up. He builds really nice homes, $5-10 million kind of homes. And so they're really Instagrammable. And he feels a little self-conscious getting up and sharing what he knows about building these homes and what decisions are made and why they're there. And he's like, he told me, I shot some videos, but I just didn't like how they looked and what was going on. So I said, okay, great. Well, we're going to go hang out. And he took us out on his boat earlier this week, and he went fishing. So we went out into the Gulf. And I said, let me just mic you up. And I'm just going to carry my little phone here, and I'm going to record it. And so I found him in something he was passionate about and that he liked that had nothing to do with it. And all I did was ask him questions about what he was doing. And then I grabbed the footage and I stitched it together myself in CapCut. No, guys, I'm not going to start editing my own videos.
No,
that was
thanks.
so hard. And I gave it to him, right? And he sent it to his brothers, to his wife, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. How did you do this? When people can see themselves captured in reality and things that they're passionate about, I think it can change their mind and open them up. So I'd encourage you to have conversations that bring out the passions that they experience outside of their work. I am certain this client has that.
Well, and I think if you let them know, people want to do business with people. They don't want to work with a faceless corporation. They want to buy from people. And so if you let them know, hey, people need to get to know who you are. And if they don't know who you are, they don't feel any emotional connection that's going to get them over the hurdle that it takes to actually make a purchase. And so if they can see who he is as a person, that's going to go so much further because that person becomes a friend. It becomes someone who you trust their opinion more because you feel like you actually know them instead of like a heartless ad that you see all the time. And so when they start to understand, hey, they don't have to do something outside of their comfort zone, but they do have to let people see the real them and to show what that is, whether it's fishing, whether it's handbags, it doesn't matter what it is, but you have to show the real you so that you become a person and not just a business.
I want to add one more thing on that. One of my mentors told me that branding is just making content that makes people remember you and feel good about you. That's all you're trying to do. Remember, you are the person they should look to when they're going to.
Quick question. I looked through you guys' Instagram and TikTok a few days ago, and I saw a lot of like dental/cavity content. Besides like dentist, teeth, etc., like the broader stuff, is there any other topics that you guys covered on these videos that actually went really viral? And what's the
Yes.
ratio between those?
So we had, I think, 3 or 4 different videos go above 1 million views talking about a Montessori floor bed. And so that all comes from a Montessori parenting philosophy that I'm a big fan of. I read about, when my kids were babies and while I was pregnant, trying to figure out how I wanted to raise my kids. And so the whole idea is that when your kid hits right around about 1 year old, you take them out of the crib and you put them on a mattress on the floor in a very simple bedroom so it's incredibly safe. And it helps them build a whole lot of independence and you don't have kids climbing out of a crib and breaking an arm. We had people go nuts for that video because they saw us as parents, and that's a lot of what our account is about on our personal branded account, not our business one, to really talk about, hey, this is who we are. We are entrepreneurs. We're a husband-wife duo that's running a business, that's running a family, and so we show what life looks like with running a business, with running our family, and just who we are as people. And that was something that I was genuinely interested in and talked about, and it had a ton of views.
Yeah, I think it got about 7 million views on Instagram and about 3 million on TikTok.
I just want to say I started buying your company because of the Montessori bed that you
No way.
share with our kids. So.
I love that.
Okay,
Thanks.
now I want to applaud you. Thank
That's
you.
awesome.
That's amazing.
So you were talking about the direct response versus the branding, and I was just kind of wondering what's kind of that balance that you guys are doing now, like of creating content specifically directly to sell versus just making awareness of the company.
I mean, my opinion on that is if you have a great product and you have great branding where they know you as people and they like who you are, you don't have to sell a whole lot. It will sell itself, and that's part of what the magic is of that. But
I mean, I would say
technical.
100% we're leaning into branding. I'm not trying to put out videos to sell gum. I'll give you an example. Earlier this week, we posted a video about how do you get cheap dental care if you can't afford dental care, right? And I made a recommendation. You go to dental school. She said maybe go to a community dental clinic. There are different options to get care when you can't afford it. And that was it. There's no pitch for a product in there, but the very first and it's just funny because that had nothing to do with that video, but it's a brand.
So I don't know if you plan on exiting your company, but imagine you are. Would you shift your content strategy so you're not the face, and if so, how?
I mean, so that's part of why we have 2 accounts. We have a Bailey's account, we have a business account. Because if we do sell the company at some point, I imagine they're gonna want all of the Epic accounts, but we're still the Baileys, we're still us, and our brand goes with us wherever we go.
I wouldn't buy my business without knowing what they're going to do with the face of the brand, right? If I were the customer purchasing. So I think that that's always important.
So you mentioned having to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And how did you kind of grow that muscle for emotional risk taking?
I think you do while you're uncomfortable and you realize being uncomfortable is not so uncomfortable after all.
You know, Gary, oh, are you done?
No, go ahead.
Gary Brecka, somebody I like to follow, maybe you guys have seen him. He's a big fan of cold plunges. And a few weeks ago, I was like, okay, I'm going to see what this cold plunge is all about. And if you've ever done a cold plunge, you start to know what it is to get uncomfortable, or to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. You just get in. There is not some easy way to prep your brain.
And I think really, if you think through, like, what is the worst possible thing that could happen, and to kind of go through what would the consequences of that be, you can kind of start to check yourself and realize, hey, like, there's nothing so terrible that can happen. Like, as bad as it gets, as some people don't like you, they think you're foolish. But one of the things that I really live by is to never, ever take advice or feedback from someone that you don't respect. And someone that's going to be looking at you and they're a naysayer, they're putting you down, they're saying you shouldn't be on TikTok, whatever it is they want to say. They're looking up at someone who's trying something, and those people are very rarely trying something themselves. People that are out there doing and trying and hustling, they are not going to be naysayers when you're doing something that's uncomfortable, even if your first attempt is shitty as hell. It doesn't matter. And so when you realize that that is the mindset of people that are haters, and you realize, hey, I don't have respect for them, why would I care what they think of me? That was something that helped me a lot.
Thank you guys so much. If you like this presentation, subscribe to the channel because I'm going to be posting all the presentations from the Attention Summit. Peace.